Okay, this video, it's a very controversial topic. Many people will get angry just in reading the title of this video. But you should ask yourself, why do I get angry? Why don't I like racism? Is it just the rational thought behind the hate for racism? Is it a rational thought? Or have you been indoctrinated to hate racism? Many people, if they have to think about an evil person, they will think about Hitler. But why? That's just indoctrination. You're taught from school, from cultural values, even from your parents, from when you were small, that Hitler and the Nazism and the fascism are the worst kind of evil. But why would they want to teach you something like this? Well, if you ask old people in Italy, I'm Italian, living in during the fascism, and probably if you asked German people during the Nazism, they would say to you that those were glorious times. Why? There was much less poverty. There was cultural unison. People loved their country, loved their culture, and were united. Because when you share the same values as a country and as people, you get united. You will not be as united as is living as a tribe, but it's in a national state where there are more than thousands of people, because in certain studies, it was demonstrated that the human mind is designed actually to work in tribes. Once the human mind has to accept a group of people more than 150, 120, it will start thinking by stereotypes. It can't value the person for what it is and his singularity. It will start to think in stereotypes. So, in a state, in a country, the most natural and healthy way of making a country with a healthy population and a united population, it's nationalism. And nationalism can live only in if there's a cultural unity and racial unity. So that's why they teach you that nationalism are bad, that Nazism was bad, and that fascism was bad. It's because they are dangerous. You can't control countries that are united. They are much more difficult to control. Not for the dictator, but for the masters, because I still believe Hitler was actually a shill, and he was a renowned black magician. He was a master in manipulating the human mind, and he did that. But he was a shill. He was used to create the war. But anyway, nationalism just demonstrated how powerful a nation can be if the people are united under certain cultural values and racial stock. So, racism is actually necessary to maintain cultural values, and it's a natural way to defend your cultural values and maintain unity in a tribe. That's why they're pushing so much for political correctness, because the way masters think You can call them Illuminati, you can call them how the fuck you want, but there are obviously some masters. People think we are free nowadays, but it's not like this. The strongest always, and the people with less moral values, they are the ones who always commanded, are still commanded nowadays. It's just that you can't see them. They are very good at hiding, but there are obviously some masters behind all of this, and they are pushing for political correctness and racial acceptance, because racism is bad. Don't hate fucking niggas. We are all the same. No, we are not, and I will explain that later. But anyway, they're pushing for political correctness for different reasons. I mean, racism correctness. We live in the most lonely society of all. I assured you that living in Nazism or fascism, it was a much more loving community, but in the inside of the community, of course, they hated other countries and cultures. But I think the human mind has actually a need to have some enemies, and if you start thinking in a politically correct manner, you will start being a natural. And as I do an example, people start like, I love everyone, I like all the people down the street. Then they go home and treat their family like shit, you know? So I think the human mind has actually a desire and a need to send hatred to something. If you don't send that hatred outside, you will find it inside. And I'd rather hate a nigger down the street than hate my family member and get angry because I have to put this social mask outside. So why are they pushing this? It's just the mechanism which they do everything. It's divide e impera. It's much more easier to control segments than a whole piece. That's why you do it. You divide people. That's why, in a certain sense, we should not get angry between races, but get angry with the masters. That's how it should be, but it's a difficult concept nowadays. So, divide e impera. If there's a Nazism country, nationalism, people are more united. They have the same cultural values. They are with the same racial stock. It's a different kind of unity. Respect a society where there's a black person, a Chinese person, a white person, with all different cultural values, who can't really connect to a deep level and don't have the tendency to it. They could, obviously, but it's much harder and less improbable. That's why there are the Chinatowns, Little Italies, the blacks stay with the blacks. You can say racism is bad and all you want, but that's how it is. White people tend to stay with white people, black people with black people, and that's just human nature, and you can't change it. But what you can do is mixing this racial stock, which has always been a characteristic of decaying empires. The Roman Empire started decaying when there was too much racial mixing. And it's a typical thing of slavery. The masters and the people who always commanded, they were really careful in mixing their genetic pool. Because mixing your genetic pool is not a good idea. It's like getting a Labrador or a very nice breed of dog and making it have puppies with a bad genetically quality dog. That's gonna worsen the genetics of the puppies coming after. So the meaning of this mixing of cultures, it's not to make us happy. It's actually the opposite. It's to make us more solitary, more divided, and more lonely. Because if you don't have people with your cultural values, you won't tend to unite with them. And everybody says, let's accept black, but how many people have nigger friends? Nobody. In Italy, not many people have nigger friends. And the niggers who are their friends, it's because they sort of adopted some part of the cultural values of the country they are in. But you won't get an African and an Italian won't get friends with him. It's very difficult. He might have two laughs down the street, but he won't invite him at dinner or lunch. That's just how it is, and you should accept that instead of hating racism. The other reason for which they are importing in the two biggest white countries such immigration influx. There are several reasons for that, but the most important reason is they want to eliminate the white race. Because yes, like animals and dogs, there are different traits to every race. Of course, there will be intelligent black people and intelligent white people, and stupid white people and stupid black people. But there are some tendencies of a racial stock to certain characteristics, and that's undeniable. For example, the Chinese and the Asian stock has a much major tendency towards slavery. They accept slavery much easier than white stock and black stock. They just have a tendency to be like working ants. They don't have a great demand for rights in general. They just give me my bread at the end of the day and they will work that. They have a greater tendency towards that. While about black people, I think they're just, it's not to be mean, but they are just inferior. They are an inferior race, and that's why white people always dominated on them. It's because, like, people say, yeah, they are poor because we invaded them, so now they can't build themselves. Well, you know how many times the European countries have been invaded by the Muslims? You know how much the European people had to fight to have some rights? That's not like this. It's been centuries of fighting against invaders and intra-country rights. So why can't the black people do the same? Why can't they build their society? Why do they have to come in the white countries and just, they are very simple-minded people. They just want the basic thing, you know? They are not sophisticated, and that's the reason why they have so much more children than white people. And that's why the plan of importing these people is to eliminate very slowly, or not even so slowly, there are some statistics, the white race. You're going to eliminate the white race. You're going to eliminate the most difficult race to master and control, and the one that has genetically and as a trait a lesser tendency to get enslaved. And they are generally the greatest minds, not always, but you will just watch history. They are the greatest minds. Most of the inventors are white, they're not black. I'm not saying there can't be black intelligent people, but they're more rare. It's just not in their culture. Yeah. Yeah, black people, why do they do more children? Because an European has researched a quality of life a certain quality of life. They will start doing children's more if they have a certain economic safety, because they want to guarantee a certain quality of life to their children and to themselves. So they're not going to do many children. And apart from that, they are much more influenced from cancer ideologies, because they are that, and they're designed to be so, like feminism. They are that ideology is just a destroyer of family values. And yes, they will tend to do much more children, even if they shouldn't do that, because they can't guarantee their children a decent life. They will do 6 children, even if they have just one person working who comes home with 1,200 cash a month. A white person will very rarely do that, because that's just stupid. You will predispose your children to a life of slavery. But they don't really care. They are used to deep shit. So when they come to the countries we made, white people made through years of sweat and pain and wars, they just come here and see, well, here's less shit than my country, so let's do children. That's just how it works. So by accepting this importage of human stock, black stock, and in USA Hispanic stock, you're accepting the destruction of your cultural values, of your culture, and are predisposing your sons to a life of misery and slavery. So, who is the evil one? The racist or the politically correct, who can't even think with his own mind?